After 20 years of X-Men movies, we have come to this. Well, sad to say it, but man, this movie was a epitastic, massive letdown. What's going on, everyone? This is Joshua, aka Future Filmmaker 39480, and welcome back to Future Filmmaker 39480 Reviews, where we talk movies, TV shows, music, and do videos surrounding those three things. And I'm here to discuss the newest film in the X-Men franchise, Dark Phoenix. So, Dark Phoenix, or X-Men Dark Phoenix, for another title, is the 12th movie in the X-Men franchise, the 7th and final film in the main series, one of two final Fox X-Men film projects, the second being New Mutants, which will be released next year, hopefully, a direct sequel to X-Men Apocalypse, and the second attempt at adapting the Dark Phoenix storyline. This film was written and directed by Simon Kinberg, who's been involved with the series since X-Men The Last Stand, and this is his first time directing. It stars James McAvoy, Sophie Turner, Michael Fassbender, Ty Sheridan, Jennifer Lawrence, Alexandra Shipp, Cody Smith-McPhee, Evan Peters, and Jessica Chastain. And the story of Dark Phoenix revolves around the classic Dark Phoenix storyline written by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, and it follows Jean Grey becoming the iconic Dark Phoenix. During a life-threatening rescue mission in space, Jean is hit by a cosmic force that transforms her into one of the more powerful mutants of all. Wrestling with this increasingly unstable power, as well as her own personal demons, Jean spirals completely out of control, tearing the X-Men family apart and threatening to destroy the very fabric of our planet. This film is supposed to be the most intense and the more emotional X-Men movie ever made, and it is the culmination of 20 years of X-Men movies, as the family of mutants that we have come to know and love must face their most devastating enemy yet, which is one of their own. So basically, this is supposed to be the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame of the X-Men series. Now, going into this movie, let me just say that I am a big fan of the X-Men franchise. I really am. I really enjoyed the 1990s animated TV series that used to come on Disney XD back when it was called Toon Disney and when Jetix was still around. And to me, that has the best interpretation of this film's story done way better, because it's done in multi-parts and it's not very rushed, and it has a lot of time to breathe. And as far as the film franchise goes, I really enjoyed almost every movie in this franchise. The original trilogy is really entertaining, with the first two great Bryan Singer directed films, with the first X-Men film released in 2000 and the 2003 awesome badass sequel X2 X-Men United. And I know a lot of people hate the X-Men The Last Stand, but I'm one of the few who do like that film, even though there are a lot of issues, including sideline Dark Phoenix story, killing off Cyclops, and bringing too many characters in. The Wolverine films are really great when it comes down to the Wolverine, which is my favorite of the trilogy, and Logan was really great. The only film in that trilogy I don't really care too much for is X-Men Origins of Wolverine, which is the worst of that trilogy and the entire X-Men film series in general. And the First Class trilogy is really good as well, with X-Men First Class and the equally as awesome X-Men Days of Future Past. Even the road cut of that movie is really badass as well, and that's the best version of Days of Future Past to watch, for me personally. And even though there are people who hate X-Men Apocalypse, I'm one of the few people who likes that movie as well. And as far as the Deadpool movies go, those movies are really great, but I do not care for the PG-13 cut of Deadpool 2 titled Once Upon a Deadpool. And there is a good reason why I haven't reviewed that version. And the other TV series, Legion and The Gifted, are really great, especially with the second season of The Gifted. And great acting from the cast members of that show, including Stephen Moyer, Amy Acker, the beautiful Natalie Allen Lynn, the gorgeous Emma Dumont, and the beautifully attractive Jamie Chung. And it really took the X-Men in a totally different direction, even though The Gifted got canceled by Fox TV, which I'm still pretty upset about. But honestly, I shouldn't be surprised since they canceled Star, Empire, and Firefly. Hopefully, someone comes along and picks that show up where it left off and picks off the two shows, Star and Empire, where they left off. Hopefully, Hulu or something. And I must say, going into this, I was one of the people who was actually excited for this movie when it was originally supposed to come out in November 2018. But this movie suffered through a hellish production trouble, much like Solo, A Star Wars Story, and the 2019 Hellboy movie did. With this film getting pushed back twice, which this movie got pushed back from its November release date due to Nutcracker in the Four Realms, and again February 14th, which was supposed to come out on that day, but Alita Battle Angel took its place. So this film got pushed back twice, went through reshoots less than $10 million, and changed the entire third act of the film due to not wanting to be too similar to Captain Marvel, and it promised to be more faithful than X-Men 3. Then the reception coming along saying that this was a disaster, and there were bad test screenings before this. And after seeing Dark Phoenix for myself, unfortunately for me, with this being the last film in the main franchise and one of the two last Fox X-Men movies to be released before they go into the MCU, this is a very disappointing send-off to these characters. And that's unfortunate too, because not only this is one of the two last Fox movies, but this is supposed to be the end of an era. Now, it's not as bad as Venom, it's not as bad as After, oh god no. It's not as bad as Hellboy 2019, and it's definitely not as bad as X-Men Origins Wolverine. And it's not the complete disaster everyone makes it out to be, but this is not very good either. It's just painfully average and disappointing, and in a lot of ways, very underwhelming. And as an X-Men fan, as someone who's been with this franchise ever since he was a young kid, this is a massive letdown, and what a very sad way to end 20 years of this long-running franchise. But this is not without its positives. Now, there are some things that are really great in here. For one, I do like the opening sequence, and it does set up for what could have been a much more interesting film if this film didn't go through all the drama that it did during its production. And I actually think this opening sequence is very well done with Jean Grey and her family in the car accident that kills her mother. I thought that was a very well done scene on Simon Kinberg's part. The main story of the Dark Phoenix is not subplot and is not sidelined like X-Men 3, but I'll get back to that in my negatives. But I do appreciate the fact that they made this full story front and center. The acting is really good except for one person, but James McAvoy continues to show his acting chops as Professor X, and so does Michael Fassbender as Magneto. They continue to embody their predecessors, Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen. And I do admit the other actors such as Cody Smith-McPhee, Alexandra Shipp, Ty Sheridan, and Evan Peters as their respective characters Nightcrawler, Storm, Cyclops, and Quicksilver are really great for the script they have to work with. This movie also really does have some very intense, disturbing imagery throughout at times. It feels like this movie easily could have been R-rated, because when you get to disturbing images, especially when Jean is the Phoenix, it almost makes you wish the movie went full R-rated mode. Mauro Fiora's cinematography work is really beautiful as well. I can say that the color palettes are really beautiful and very well done on his part, and there's a lot of moments that looks really beautiful, especially the numerous cosmic space shots. And honestly, this is the thing about the movie that no one mentions when they talk about it. And the action sequences, the very well few they are when they are very fun to watch, especially the train sequence at the end, which is good, but I'd rather have seen the original final act, which might be similar to Captain Marvel with it being in space, but at least it'd be more fun. And most of the special effects and CGI look really good at times, especially when Jean uses her Phoenix powers. Hans Zimmer's musical score, I actually really don't mind. I must say it was nice to see him do another superhero movie score, especially after Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, which after that movie he said he would not do any more superhero movie scores, but I guess he must change his mind. His score is really amazing and intense at times, and is very emotionally charging, and it does lack the classic John Ottman X-Men theme from X2, but I do applaud the music here, and you do have some nice character moments going for it, sprinkled throughout the course of the entire movie. At times, some of the dialogue is somewhat decent. And the last positive that I can give to this movie is Sophie Turner. Really gives it her all as Jean Grey Phoenix. Yes, she is working with a not very well written screenplay, but I do admit she does do the absolute best that she possibly can with what she is given. You do get both sides of Jean Grey and Phoenix, and she really plays it to a T, and so I must give her credit to where credit is due. Yes, she does have a lot of moments where she has to show facial expression and has very little dialogue as the Phoenix persona, but in my opinion, she pulls it off quite well. As far as the in-between things, I don't really mind the cameo of Dazzler played by the beautiful Halston Sage. It was cool to see Dazzler for her first movie appearance after 19 years previously. But I'll get back to that in my negatives because it is wasted potential. They don't make the Phoenix side of Jean Grey split personality like The Last Stand did, and they actually try to make it as more faithful to the source material than possibly can. And there are some moments where the team is trying to figure out how to deal with Jean Grey and her new powers, and I love those parts of the movie. And you do wish there was more of like those themes and those situations like that in the movie. And the last thing that's in between is that some of the direction is somewhat decent in terms of Simon Kinberg's directing. I don't think it's a very bad directorial debut, because he is first-time director, so I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, this movie has so many things that are not very good with it that it keeps the film from reaching its full potential that it should have reached. And I'm going to talk about that now. Now, as I said in the intro of this review, it is disappointing. It's sad. It's sad to see how we've been on a winning streak with the other X-Men films in this series. First Class, The Wolverine, Days of Future Past, Deadpool, X-Men Apocalypse, Logan, and Deadpool 2. And then when you get to this movie, which should honestly be a celebration for the X-Men, feels more like a funeral for these characters. It's very sad and disappointing on how this entire series goes out, because the reason why I really like this franchise a lot is because this franchise focuses on so many themes such as acceptance and tolerance. No matter what religion, skin color, gender, sexuality, or disability you have. And that's why I think a lot of people really look up to these movies and appreciate them. but those themes are just not present here as they should be, which brings me to many of the issues this film has. And those are the writing, direction, pacing, the villain, and wasted potential. I'm going to start off with the wasted potential. As I said in the positives, it does go for some pretty visual stuff here with PG-13 rating, and I honestly felt like an R rating could have improved a lot of moments where it feels like it should have been rated R. And the Dark Phoenix Saga comic is one of the most visceral story arcs and one of the most brutal story arcs in any comic book ever. And I haven't read the comic yet, but I've seen the animated episodes of the classic TV series from the 90s, and they took full advantage of that storyline. And the problem here is that you have a chance to really go for broke here with an R rating and with the story. But the movie benefits from not having an R rating, especially in the film's intense moments that could have been pushed more if it was R rated. Another moment of wasted potential is that this film finds a way somehow to ruin the Dark Phoenix Saga storyline again, but not giving us many moments of exploring Jean as a character or delving deeper into the Phoenix personality at all, and it does hurt the film a lot in the long run. The idea of Genosha being an island for mutants to hide out is very interesting, but the problem is they doesn't get fully explained. And there's so many scenes in here with a lot of moments of potential that doesn't even get a chance to be fully delved deeper into, and most of the X-Men feels heavily sidelined, wasted, and underused, including Cyclops, Quicksilver, Storm, and Nightcrawler. And like I said, the actors are great in their roles, and they work the best way they can with the script that is given for them. But the problem here is that either they don't develop the characters enough or give them not enough much to do. They're mostly just there just to be there because it's an X-Men movie. But at the same time, they should be doing a lot more. And like I said, I like Halston Sage's cameo as Dazzler. Halston Sage is a really great actress, very beautiful. But considering the fact that this is the first time we get to see Dazzler, she should have done a lot more, and I'm hoping when the MCU reboots the X-Men, this problem will be addressed. But the biggest waste of potential here is that neither Jubilee or Psylocke is present here. Lana Condor was originally supposed to come back as Jubilee for this movie, but due to scheduling conflicts with To All the Boys All Over Before, she was unable to do this movie. And that is sad because while I do like that particular film, To All the Boys All Over Before, I feel like Jubilee could have really done a lot more here and finally get some play in an X-Men movie. But nope, that's a total loss. Psylocke is the thing that upsets me the most because I really liked Olivia Munn as Psylocke, and I thought she was very awesome in the role. She was very sexy in the costume. She really brought her A game, and she didn't have much dialogue to work with, which still upsets me, but she did a great job. And I was hoping they fixed the issue that I have with Psylocke in Apocalypse by giving her more to do. And unfortunately, she's nowhere to be found in here in this movie, and that is a big loss. And I know Olivia Munn was busy doing Predator, but still, you could have done something to get Munn to come back. And there is no alien race at all, as it should be from the comics. And Magneto is completely useless here because they don't do anything new with him, but they do the exact same thing we've seen here before, and at this point it's gotten pretty old. And you had a golden opportunity to have Quicksilver tell Magneto that he was his son here, as they didn't do that in Apocalypse. But yet again, they don't do that. You don't even get much of the team dynamics here either, and while it does feel different, this film basically feels like the same old stuff, but done better in other films in the franchise. The writing and direction here is very messy and inconsistent at times. not even the most coherent. And I'm willing to cut Kinberg a little bit of slack in terms of direction because this is his first time directing, but in terms of the film's script, there's honestly no excuse because Kinberg has been with this franchise since The Last Stand, and the script for Days of Future Past is exceptionally well written. I'm sorry to say it, but Justice League had a very tough production nightmare, yet that movie is more watchable compared to this. The direction is very messy and very odd, and there's a lot of moments where it could have went somewhere, but it didn't have the intensity and emotion in the directing, and it doesn't have the visual flair and gravitas that this film needed, and it does feel quite boring in a lot of times with the film, as they don't really develop these characters or give them much to do. And there's not much of an emotional impact as you would expect from this movie. Yes, the scene with Jean Grey crying over Mystique's death is really well done, with Sophie Turner really bringing that scene home. But there should have been a lot more going for the emotion in terms of this film's emotional weight. But in terms of writing in this movie, I don't know what the hell happened when the script was being written, because there are some very cringy, bland, and at times very weak dialogue and explanatory and world build-up. And there is so many moments in this movie where characters are just explaining stuff to us, and I don't mind explanatory and world build-up in a movie, but it gets old and repetitive very quickly, to the point at times in the film it becomes boring and stale. And there is the most unintentionally hilarious line in the entire movie, where Mystique says the team should be called the X-Women, and that is not not only the kind of SJW line, but it had me laughing because it's just not a very good line at all. And I honestly feel like if someone else wrote the movie instead of Kinberg, the film could have had a lot more going for it and a lot more time to breathe. Then you have characters who are not acting like their comic book character counterparts at all, and I have to address this. Beast acts completely out of control. Nicholas Hoult, great actor, he does a good job in the role, but he acts completely out of character in this movie, and it doesn't feel like the character at all. Basically what happens is Mystique gets killed, and he gets upset at Xavier because of what he's done, and decides to work with Magneto to kill Jean. And that was very unlike the character, because Hank is not really like that in the comics or in the other films, and it didn't really do a whole lot for me. And I like what they were doing there, but again, it just felt completely out of character for them to do that. But the biggest out of character thing that irritates me is the way that Professor X is written here. Oh my goodness. People complain about Luke Skywalker being out of character in Star Wars The Last Jedi, but I accept that because it was something different for Luke, and also kept the Luke Skywalker that we knew and loved, and turned him on his head and make him different. But here with Professor X is not as bad as The Last Stand's version of Professor X, but it's still very out of place. Now I get what they were going for by having him see the error of his ways and suffering the consequences of his actions, having him be more of an egotistical asshole and a jerk, and all he cares about is the fame and prosperity. But at the same time, I don't like what they did to him, because it's not the Professor X that we all know and love. And the Professor X's Xavier that we know and love is caring, determined, loving, and very warm and heartfelt, and he cares for the mutants. And this is easily the second time you have pulled this crap on this character. As far as the acting goes, like I said, it's good, but I feel I left out one person because she deserves to be mentioned here in the negative side of this review. And I have to hate to say this, but Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. Let's get it out of the way. Jennifer Lawrence is an Oscar winner actress, and she is a great actress. I love her a lot, and she has a lot of great performances, such as the Hunger Games franchise, Mother, Red Sparrow, American Hustle, Winter's Bone, even House at the End of the Street, which is not very good, but she was great in it. I loved her X-Men First Class, in Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse as the character Mystique. But here, she's so bland, and she has gone on record to say that she hates wearing the blue makeup required for the character, which is essential to the character. And the makeup looks really bad on Mystique in this movie. I don't know what was going on there. And you can tell that she absolutely doesn't care about this character or this franchise anymore. And she absolutely acts like that she does not want to be there, and it shows. So when her character dies, I don't feel sorry or as sad as I should, because J-Law is not really invested in this character as she was with the first 3 X-Men film appearances she had. And Jennifer Lawrence would have put her hate of the makeup aside to do a good job once again. And if they didn't spoil this in the second trailer, I would have been more saddened and more heartbroken and more affected by it. And the film's pacing. The pacing in this movie is very slow, inconsistent, and messy. As I said, in terms of writing and directing, this does apply for the film's editing. If it was better handled or dived deep into enough to the point where I cared a lot, this could have been compelling, riveting, and very well done. Yet instead of doing that, we have a movie that has a lot of potential worthy moments that feel so incomplete and rushed throughout the film's length, to the point where you feel the reshoots and production troubles, and it ends up ending in a very unsatisfying way. And you can tell this movie should have been a lot longer, because this film is only an hour and 54 minutes long, and yet it leaves a lot of continuity errors, which wouldn't irritate me as much as it does if I loved the movie or liked the film, but I didn't. Captain Marvel may have some MCU continuity errors, but they don't really bother me much in that movie. And let's not forget that you are telling the biggest comic book story in terms of comics and in history, and it's only 114 minutes long. You don't take a story like the Dark Phoenix story and shorten it like that. And with a big gargantuan epic story like this, the Dark Phoenix saga, this easily should have been 2.5 hours long, because it gives us a lot more time to care, a lot more time to breathe, a lot more time to appreciate than we should have, and easily this movie would have gotten a much better reception before and after its release. And while most of the effects are well done, some of the effects look really bad. They look like effects with a mix of PlayStation 1, Nintendo GameCube CG imagery, and a mix of effects you would see on the MTV, Sci-Fi Channel, and BET movies effects combined, all wrapped up in one. And that is sad when your budget is literally $200 million, and it makes the effects in Captain Marvel look way better. And in my opinion, the effects of Captain Marvel are way better and well done. But the biggest thing about this film that disappoints is the villain. The villain, Jessica Chastain as Vuk. And I'm gonna be honest, Jessica Chastain, I love her as an actress. She's an Oscar nominee. She's done a lot of great performances in movies like Interstellar, Zero Dark 30, Crimson Peak, and especially Molly's Game. I think Jessica Chastain, she is very attractive, she's very beautiful, and I can't wait to see her in the second half of It in September. But here, she does try. She does try. But the problem is, there's not much to her character in terms of development. The race that she is a part of, you don't know much about. And honestly, it doesn't make it feel like that she's very useless here. And I'm not going to take anything from Jessica Chastain. And honestly, it should have just been, she just played a little Andra from the comics, and have that alien race, the Shire Empire race. If you would have done that, I think Jessica Chastain, she could have been a really good villain, but instead you give her a villain character that's nothing. So in the case of X-Men Dark Phoenix overall, it's not the worst thing ever. It's not the worst X-Men movie ever, and it's definitely nowhere near the disaster people say it is. While it does have some really great things about it, and I do get what they were trying to do, there is a lot of things that is wrong with this movie. And as a fan to the 20-year-long franchise, and with this being of an era of 20 years of X-Men movies, this easily should have and could have been really amazing and a great send-off for this universe and this incarnation of the X-Men, and ended everything on a high note. But it ends this incarnation of the X-Men on a lackluster and disappointing note. And it is not 100% satisfying for me to see all these characters that I've been with for the first 20 years of my life and just leave us on a whimper like that. And there are some things I do like, and it does make this somewhat of a rainy day watchable time waster, but ultimately it's just very disappointing. And I hate to say this, but when Famke Janssen's Jean Grey's Phoenix is more developed than this Jean Grey Phoenix, it makes me want to watch X-Men The Last Stand over this. And I hate to make this other comparison, but the MCU tweaks some of its source material, but it keeps the essence of what people love about those characters. And this movie was supposed to be the Infinity War / Endgame of the X-Men films. And this movie couldn't even do that right. When a 3-hour and 2-minute long Avengers movie does a better job at concluding its main story arc that is built up to for 11 years than an X-Men movie that's an hour and 54 minutes long, that is just sad, because I love the X-Men, and to see them go out like this is just not very pleasing. It makes me want to watch Venom again, it makes me want to watch Fan-Forstic again. And honestly, I hate to have to say it, because this other movie I'm about to mention is definitely one of my favorites of the year so far. It makes me want to watch Godzilla King of the Monsters again, and that is a better movie than this, and that got a ton of hate unnecessarily. But ultimately, Dark Phoenix is just very disappointing for me. And very underwhelmed by it, and I'm going to give it a Redbox rental, which is a C-. So that was my review of X-Men Dark Phoenix. Should have been a lot better, but ends up being very disappointing in the process. So let me know what you guys think of Dark Phoenix down below. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What is your take on the movie? Are you in between like it, love it, or hate it? Do you think it's underrated, or did you think this is very disappointing? Let's have a nice discussion about it in the comments down below. Be sure to follow all my social media links to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Stardust, Letterboxd, Facebook official fan page, SoundCloud. All of those descriptions are linked down below as always. Also, be sure to check out my website where I post written reviews as well. And until the next video, you guys keep it cool and join the Epitastic.